focus on, oh, I need 100 birds in 1 week, just the thought of how crippling that is will short circuit you thinking it can get done. Maybe take it one at a time, then it's a lot easier. And I know this sounds cliche, like it is very cliche, but these are just, again, Stoic principles are very practical, very easy to use, very easy to see where you can use them in your life. And although not very easy to practice, they're easy, well, not easy to obtain, it's very easy to practice and get accustomed to. And then, so do your job well. Has anyone here taken Latin and knows what this says? No one?
I'm assuming recte means fix.
What?
What does this mean? I don't know.
It means that anything that is done well, anything that is done right, no matter how small or humble, is noble. And so that was by Sir Henry Royce of Rolls-Royce. I'm not actually sure why he said it in Latin. I guess it just sounded more official to have it in Latin, but it is a very profound thought for explained in a very ancient way, I guess. So then, Ryan Holiday, going back to him, whenever we face, our job is to respond with hard work, honesty, and helping others as best we can. Any job, even if you're like sweeping floors, that's where Andrew Carnegie started. All he focused at the time, he focused on just getting the floor as clean as he could. He picked up the broom and just worked. Did his job well, and eventually became a legend. And the last thing, willing acceptance. You have to be able to prepare for failure. Everything, even if you take the obstacle, you flip it upside down, you think it is an opportunity. So obviously, if you roll the dice, it's not always going to work, and you have to prepare for that. Gary Klein is a famous psychologist, and he actually uses the term the pre-mortem, where you say where you essentially, in any project that you're going to go forward with, any decision you make, you say the project has failed spectacularly. What went wrong with this? And then by preparing for absolute failure in the very beginning, you can actually start to improve the project from its very first principles. Seneca also had a very good quote of this. The next one is that you have to go with the flow, or just see the trend, see the wave in the water or in the world, and go with it. The fates will guide the person who accepts them and hinder the person who resists them. If you see that everyone else is, if you see that the world is going somewhere towards a trend, generally you should take advantage of that. Obviously, not always, but you should always go with the wave rather than trying to resist it. And the last one is amor fati. If anyone has much more basic Latin skills, you should be able to decipher what this means. It just means love your fate. So whatever happens to you, even if you perceive it as good or bad, you should love it, because why would you not? It's what happens to you, and you might as well be happy about it. There's no way that if something like quote unquote bad happens to you, you perceive it as bad, and you can go forward with it two ways. You can be happy about it, you can see it as an opportunity, or you can choose to be depressed and not. Well, obviously, if you're clinically depressed, that's a different thing. But you can see it in a bad light and go forward being sad about it. But what is the point of that? You're just gonna be sad. Being sad doesn't help you in any way. Whereas if you're happy and optimistic and you see things in a good light, you'll be able to move forward a lot easier. Second to last one is that you should endure everything without complaint. This kind of follows from the very last one and also from persist. Everything that happens is either endurable or not. If it is endurable, then endure it and don't complain. And if it's not endurable, then stop complaining about it. Your destruction will mean its end as well. And that's kind of a dark thought, but I should have put this other quote on there, which says that everything that nature throws at you is endurable. Also by Marcus Aurelius earlier than that. So essentially he's saying that no matter how bad you think it is, it's going to get better. And that's also very cliche, I realize. but it is true. Nothing that you're gonna face is going to be that bad in retrospect. Like some people, actually I won't go there because that's very dark, but there's way worse situations that you can be in than what you're probably going to get into. And even if it's absolutely unendurable, then it's going to end soon and you should not complain anyway. And the last one was to invest your time wisely. Seneca's On the Shortness of Life is essentially all about this. It's not that we have so little time, but that we lose so much. The life we receive is not short, but we make it so. We are not ill-provided, but use what we have wastefully. He's saying that life is actually long if you know how to use it. Life is like a play, essentially. It's not the length of the play that determines its quality, but who is in it and its quality. And then Marcus Aurelius again said, there is a limit to the time assigned to you, and if you don't use it to free yourself, it will be gone and it won't return. Time is the only commodity that you cannot get back, that you can't make back in the future. So you have to do everything as if it would be your last day. And Steve Jobs also had something about this. He said, if I go to work today, this is my last day on earth, and I go to work today, is this what I want to be doing? He would stand in the mirror every single day and say that to himself. And if that wasn't what he wanted to be doing, for a few days in a row, he knew that he had to switch directions somehow and start doing something that he would do if it were actually his last day on earth. And so these are, just to wrap up, a couple of quotes that I didn't really find it to clear spaces to put in the aforementioned sections, but they're interesting and helpful nonetheless. This first one I actually have, I look up at it as I wake up, just because I think it's very practical and actually very helpful just to get out of bed. When you get out of bed, tell yourself that you have to go to work, and that is your job as a human being. What else are you supposed to do? You're supposed to stay under the blankets and feel nice? Like your entire purpose of living is to work with other people and create value for the world. And even if you think that you've worked enough, you've always slept more, and your quota for work has not been met yet. So you just need to keep working and get out of bed. And this is, it's the first thing I see when I wake up. It actually falls on me sometimes, which is kind of weird. But as soon as I wake up, it's just like, I don't know why I said that, but that's pretty weird. So these are the last 3 quotes by Marcus Aurelius. Good luck, good fortune is you make it for yourself through having good character, good intentions, and having good actions. And the responsibility that you go through life with is entirely yours. No one can stop you from being honest or straightforward. If you can't do that in that situation, then you should not go on living. Which is kind of a harsh way to say it, but if at that point you would be essentially mentally ill beyond belief, or being tortured constantly, and either way you would want to not be living anymore. But otherwise, in everything else, you can live an honest and straightforward life. And that's basically what Marcus Aurelius says that the meaning of life is: just to be good. Be a good person, help others, and be honest and just. And the last one, if you think you've been harmed, again, if the community, if what you feel harmed you was good for the community, you're part of the community, so how could it harm you? You can't actually, you can't do something that's good for the octopus while injuring one of its tentacles. Anger is not the answer in that case. You have to show the quote-unquote offender who did harm you but good for the community where you went wrong. And then, if you want to read more about Stoic philosophy, and there's I just did a very, very brief overview of some of it. There's a lot more. I was just starting with The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday. This is probably my second favorite book, with my first favorite book being Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. Both of them are incredibly practical. Meditations was written over 2,000 years ago and has principles in it that you would think were written by someone just a few years ago, which I think is amazing. It's very, again, very practical. Stoicism in general is very practical. The Obstacle is the Way is a very good introduction to Stoicism and how modern people like Rockefeller, Carnegie, Eisenhower used it in their own conquests. And Ryan Holiday in general is just a genius writer. And then the next three under analyses are all written by Pierre Hadot. None, in my opinion, I don't think that any other analyses of Stoic works are worth reading at all. They either miss the point entirely of Stoicism or just don't have good translations or don't do a good job in general. But Pierre Hadot is the one to read. Any of these three are great. And then as for the source material themselves, Letters from the Stoic and Dialogues and Letters from Seneca are classics, and the Discourses by Epictetus, also a classic. There's a lot more that these people have written, but this is just something to get you started. So I realized this was pretty short, and I wanted to leave it up for a lot of questions.
So, if you had to argue about why Stoicism is a crappy method of thinking, what would your best point be?
That it relies too much on the thought that there's someone who is guiding you through life. Like if you read a lot of the Stoic works, it's like, this is what your nature has ordained for you, this is what your fate has prescribed for you, and I don't necessarily think that fate and the uppercase nature is a good way of, or a great way of going through the world, thinking that you don't have free will. But
Okay.
What is a competing philosophy to Stoicism? Fuck.
I mean, it's not really